Hey everyone, Mike Hidalgo here. Thank you for joining us on another FCPO DIY. Today we're going to be working on this 1999 Carrera 911 behind us. We're going to be covering how to remove the headlights as well as the taillights on the car. Reason for this may be is if you have a headlight bulb that's out, you may have a taillight bulb that's out, or you're simply going to be replacing or upgrading your housings. Today we're simply going to be changing the bulbs on the 911. We're not going to be replacing anything. However, as mentioned before, the process would be the same. Now before we get started on the car, let's go over some of the tools that we're going to need for this job. To remove the headlight from the 911, you're going to need an extension. I'm using a 1/4 inch ratchet. You can use a 3/8 as well, and a 5mm hex socket. Now, normally, if your car is all original, you're going to have the stock tool bag that comes with the car from the factory. In that tool bag, you'll have the proper tool to remove the headlight as well. Ours is missing that, so we're going with the regular tool set. And to remove the taillight, just as simple as the front headlights, you're going to need a 10mm socket and a ratchet to get that out. We'll show you that when we get to the car. And just a nice to have a flashlight so you can see where you're working. Now we got the tools and the parts covered, let's head over to the car and get started. My good people, thank you for joining me at the car. Let's get started. We're going to go ahead and pop open the hood. Don't at me, you guys that call it frunks. It's a hood. We're going to go ahead and twist this tab while pulling back on the fabric just to help it out. And fold it out of the way. Now that we've pulled back the liner, normally you're going to have a plug here. You're going to want to pull that out of the way. Ours is missing that, so we're just going to go ahead and skip that step. Next, we're going to take our 5mm socket. Again, if you have the Porsche tool, this is going to be where you're going to insert it. Now we have our tool in. If you're holding your tool facing upwards, you're going to want to go ahead and push towards the firewall on the car, while also gently lifting on the headlight. And then we'll do this twice for you. You'll hear a loud pop, and the headlight will release. Now we got the headlight out, we're going to go ahead and replace the bulbs. The 911 uses the same bulb on the halogen unit for the high beam and the low beam, so we'll show you how to do that. First, you're going to want to remove the cap on the back of the headlight housing. Simple tab here, it says push. You can take that off and put it to the side. Next, you're going to see your two bulbs in here. This is your high beam and your low beam. In order to remove the bulb, you're going to want to pull the connecting plug off first. Pretty straightforward. Set it to the side. The bulbs are held in by these metal retaining clips. You're going to want to push on it and push it up towards the top of the headlight. You can see it only hooks in one way. Pull it off to the side. And then from there, you're going to want to pull your old bulb out. You'll notice that the bulb is keyed. That way it can only go in one way. Pretty hard to mess up. Now before you put in your new bulbs, you're going to want to make sure you're not touching the filament itself. The oils from your fingers will damage it. I'm going to go ahead and throw on some gloves real quick just so I don't contaminate our new bulbs. Now the install is going to be the same as the removal. You're going to make sure that your key on the bulb is facing the same way, which in this case would be that notch right up top. Put the bulb in, pull the clip back, push on it gently, hook it into place, then put your connector back on. And the process is going to be identical for the low beam as well. We're going to go ahead and replace that real quick since we have both of the bulbs. And then you're going to want to put your dust cap back on. Just make sure the seal is free of any debris. That way you can have a nice tight seal. No water or moisture will get into your headlight. There's that snap, baby. That concludes the bulb replacement on the passenger side headlight of this 911. The process is going to be identical for the driver's side, whether you're removing the headlight or replacing a bulb. So pretty straightforward as far as that goes. Let's go ahead and put this back in the car. Now we're ready to put our headlight back in, but before we do, I wanted to show you guys a couple cool things about it that at least I find interesting. On the housing itself, you'll notice that you have 1, 2, 3 little, you can call them alignment feet or pegs. They're gonna go ahead and just lock into the headlight housing. So they're kind of a guide to help make sure that the headlight goes back into place properly. The other cool thing about these headlights is that as you remove and install them, they self-plug in and unplug. So It's really nice. There's no cables to fuss with or plugs to try to get once they're in the car. So just a really cool design. So let's go ahead and get this back in the vehicle. Now it's back in place. The lock-in is going to be the reversal of the removal. It's going to pull towards the front of the car while gently pushing the headlight in. You'll hear a pop, and it's locked in and secured. Now that our headlight's secured back into place, we're going to go ahead and simply, if we have it, put the plug back in there, and then tuck our liner back into place. Make sure the weather stripping seal goes over it, and thread this guy back in. Now we're at the rear of the vehicle. Obviously we have our engine lid opened up. In order to get the taillight out, we have to remove this 10mm bolt, using a 10mm socket, of course. From there, you're going to want to go ahead and you can grab on the inner portion of the taillight here. Just kind of pull out with one hand on there while you assist from the other end with your other hand. And just pull straight back. And then from here, we're just going to want to go ahead and undo this electrical connector, and our taillight will be free. All right, now that we got our taillight out, we can go ahead and replace the bulbs that need replacing. In this case, we're only going to replace one of them. It's the only one the car needed. We're going to do this upper one. The removal process is going to be the same for all the bulbs themselves. You're going to want to grab and twist counterclockwise, and then you can pull it out. The bulb is the same way. You're going to want to grab it, give it a twist counterclockwise, and it will come out. Before you put your new one in, you want to make sure that they're identical, they look the same. And just like the headlight bulbs, try to avoid putting your oils on the film on the outside of the bulb. It just helps the longevity of the bulb. Twist and twist. Now we can go ahead and put this back on the car and wrap up this DIY. Now we have our headlight ready to go. We're going to go ahead and plug our electrical connector back in. You'll notice that they're notched, so they can only go in one way. Get that click. And then from there, you want to make sure the notch on the end of the far side of the taillight keys in to the plastic hook here on the inside of the body. Just line that up, give it a little push forward, and then our 10mm goes back in, and that's that. Underneath the driver's side, a cool tech tip is that you have an emergency release for the engine hatch. Now, a lot of people will go ahead and either tape this and kind of keep it tucked in a corner here where you can access it with like maybe like a hook or a thin pick, should you ever need it. Other people like to go ahead and route it underneath behind the bumper. So if your hatch is stuck shut and your battery's dead, or your hatch itself or your pull release in the vehicle has failed, you have a second way of getting into it. Now, we may look into going ahead and feeding ours through the bumper later on a future date, but for now we're going to leave it back in place. Well, there you have it, my good people. That concludes the headlight and taillight bulb replacement on this 911. As you can see, overall a pretty straightforward job, very minimal tools required. If you guys like what you saw in this video, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up. If you have any questions or comments on what we did today, leave those in the box below. And if you like this DIY, please consider subscribing. We make new ones all the time. As always, thank you for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.